Let's proceed with our classes in Python. Let's now introduce the init function responsible for the attributes. The function init is a dunder method or a magic method known by proceeding and preceding it with double underscores. It is called a constructor, crucial for understanding Python classes and objects. The init method is automatically called on creating an instance of a class. It initializes the attributes, properties of an object during object creation. Let's make things clearer with writing a code. Let's create a class of students. And remember that students must be in capital letters. Let's define our init function here with double underscores preceding it and proceeding it. Let's introduce our arguments, the name of the student and the age of the student. Let's write here self.name equals name. Also, self.age equals age. What we really did here is that we assigned this variable self.name to the attribute that we will pass to the argument here name when we create our object or instance. Let's now create our first object, student1 equals the name of the class starting with a capital letter, and we pass the attributes here, the name Tom for student1 and his age is 12 years. This is automatically done. What really happens here is that this constructor, the init method, initializes the attributes or the properties Tom and age during the object creation. Let's have a run here and make sure that no errors appear. Let's print the name of the student. So write print student1.name and let's see what happens. Have a run of our program here. It writes Tom in the output. This means that once the instance is created, it has the ability to call any attribute as it had the ability to call any method inside the class student. Let's also print the age of student1. Student1.age to call the attribute age. Let's have a run here. Yes, it prints 12. What really happened here is the following. When the instance class object is created here, student1, it automatically calls the init method. Self is passed to the instance, student1, and the attribute Tom is passed to the name argument. And the attribute age equals 12 is passed to the argument age. This is how it works. It is now crucial to understand what really self means. Let's substitute it with st, say student. Then we should write here st and here st. And let's run our program. It gives the same results. So it is by default or well known to use self, which refers to the object created. Self or whatever you use here refers to each object created, and therefore it gives a neat code and readable code and easy code. Let's now for this very example introduce a method also. We introduce here inside the class another method. We define it, say action. And of course, instead of self, we still use this st we created. What does the method or function action do? It prints the student goes to school. So let's print. Let's use our F here, and between quotations write the student. We need to write his name. This is done by introducing these curly brackets or placeholder and writing instead of ourself, st used here, name, goes to school. And let's have a run here. Now it prints Tom and 12, but it doesn't print the action it does. Why? Because we didn't call it yet. We need to print student1 dot the method, which is action. Let's have our run now. Yes, it says Tom 12 and the student Tom goes to school. To cut it short, we create a class to create objects for it after a while. Each object is created by the syntax object equals the class name, and we introduce the attributes that will be passed to the arguments in the init function. Every instance created has the ability to call any attribute or any method in the class. Let's have another example. Now, let's create a class of mammals again. Now we define the init function and we introduce the argument name, which will be given for each object created. So we write self.name and we assign it the name which will be given. You can realize that the name here takes the same color as the name here, as Python recognizes it. This is an attribute. Let's have a method here. Define a method. Give birth. What does give birth do? It prints a statement saying that the animal can give birth. So let's use our F string here. Open the quotations and write a, capital A. In the placeholder, let's write self.name to refer to the name of the object created. Gives birth. Let's define another function. Define move. The function is called move, and we have here our self and the movement, which will be given to the created object. What does the function of move do? It prints that the instance can move. So we have our print here, our F string, quotations, a self holder here, self.name again, can, and we insert the movement in the placeholder here. Once it's done, it takes a color similar to this color, as Python can recognize that both are the same thing here. So what we really have so far, we have an instance attribute name, we have an instance method give birth, and another instance method move. Let's create our first object. Mammal1 equals mammals, which is the name of the class, and let's introduce the dog here, give it the name dog. Once mammal1 is created, which has the name dog, it can call any function in the class. So let's write mammal1 dot move, the function we needed to be called, and let's insert here walk. We can also write mammal1 and let it call the other function give birth. Let's run here. Yes, it calls the function move, the instance function move, and it writes a dog can walk. What really happened is that self refers to mammal1, the argument name has dog passed to it, and the function movement has walk passed to it, and therefore it writes a dog can walk. The same thing happened with give birth, the function give birth, the instance method. Self here is passed to recognize mammal1, and dog, the attribute of the name, was passed to the argument name here, and therefore a dog gives birth was written in the output. Let's introduce another mammal here. Let's write mammal2 equals the class mammal, and let's give it the name bat. A bat is a mammal, by the way. Our object, after being created, can call any attribute and any method. So let it call the method move and give the motion to be fly, because a bat flies. And let it also call the method give birth. And we will run our program to see what happens. Yes, after giving the output data for the dog, it gives the output data for mammal2. So it writes a bat can fly and a bat gives birth. This was another example on class mammals with one attribute and two methods.